Well, Neil, we meet again. I think
Yes.
This is 3 or 4 times. Who's counting anymore? But it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
And I was thinking, my word, what a busy week this is for you, and a busy 24 hours
Yes.
with Broadway Bound opened, and I only saw one review, but it was a rave. Were they all raves?
Pretty much so, yeah. It's what I've heard.
Yeah, and then, of course, your film, Brighton Beach Memoirs, is
Opening soon.
That's what we're
Right.
here to talk about.
Uh-huh.
So, big, busy time for you, but that's kind of the norm for you, isn't it? You're always opening one and getting another one ready.
Well, it doesn't always happen that two things come out at the same time. I mean, thought Brighton Beach was really scheduled to come out earlier, and then the studios decide this is a family film, and they feel, and it's a better time at Christmas, and so ran right into the opening of Broadway Bound, so all of these things pile up at once.
And you're screaming, help, help.
I am, literally. I'm tired, yeah.
Brighton Beach Memoirs I saw as a play, and now I'm seeing it as a movie. And let me ask you, go right to the horse's mouth, as it were. Let me ask you then, what kinds of changes, beyond what you always say, opening it up for the film, but what kinds of script changes or people changes did you make for the film?
I'm not aware of any real major changes in that respect. I think it was basically opening it up to make it a film to show the environments in which Eugene and his family are living in Brooklyn in the late 30s, to show those streets and to show the cars and the people, the dresses and the way they live their life. And I think the detail of that is much better than the detail in the play. We can't show all of that. So you get a sense of the atmosphere. I mean, you can almost smell it all. And I think that is an improvement over the play. In terms of changing any of the characters, I mean, the film must be 35 or 40 minutes shorter than the play. The play ran 2 hours and 45 minutes, and the play is under 2 hours. So a lot of material is going to get lost. You've got to do Bridge Over the River Kwai to do 2 hours and 45 minutes. So. But it's all right, because in films, audiences are adjusted to the fact that they can absorb material much more quickly. Where you would write a speech that could maybe, or a scene that would, excuse me, run 7 or 8 pages on stage, you cut it down to a page or 2 pages. And so it doesn't have the ease sometimes as a play might have, but it sometimes has greater impact.
Jonathan Silverman, of course, played it on Broadway for you and in the National Company. Now he's a couple of years older, so what kind of problem did that pose for you, if any?
Well, actually, the picture was made well over a year ago, and Jonathan is at the age where he just suddenly grew. He's tall in the film, but not as tall as he is now. In this year, he must have put on a couple of inches, I think. And so he looks in the film 15 years old. Since he left that, he went on to play a 20-year-old in Biloxi Blues, the second part of the trilogy, and now he's just played, let's say, a 23-year-old boy in Broadway Bound, and he's younger than that, but he looks the part. So when you're dealing in that age group, one can suddenly move from one to the other.
Just make the pants a little shorter. And
Yeah, a shade of a mustache.
How did you happen to cast Blythe Danner? Because she is one of my favorite actresses, and as much as I like her, Neil, somehow I would never have thought of her for this Jewish mother.
Well, that's always a difficult problem, because one doesn't always cast a person by what religion they are, or what country they come from, or what their background is. What you look for, basically, is the best actress. If we could have found an actress who was believably Jewish, but not as good an actress as Blythe, we would not be serving the play or ourselves very well. We could not find the person that we wanted in every aspect, and so we went for the best actress that we could get. I mean, this is an ensemble play, and we were not going for, despite the fact that I think Blythe is a first-rate actress, she might not be considered a name actress, and we were not looking for that. So that eliminates one whole group of people, and when you start going for the best actors and actresses, you go to people who have had the experience of playing ensemble, in which they are not going to monopolize the scene, but play as a unit.
Neil, to what extent is this autobiographical? Now, in the notes we have, it says semi-autobiographical.
Well, we could say quasi.
So, in what way is this boy you, and in what way is he not you?
Well, the boy is me, but the incidents do not necessarily all happen. Some of them did happen. It's a memory play, so I don't remember all of the incidences. I remember what my impressions were. If you were to speak to my brother, who was growing up in the same house, despite the fact that he was 7 years older than I am, his impressions were different. So if he wrote Brighton Beach Memoirs, it was going to be a completely different play. It would be from his point of view. So we don't deal with the actual or factual truth, we deal with the impressionistic truth. And that's why I call it semi-autobiographical. It's what I seem to remember, and I choose to remember the things that I like best about it, even the hard times. And things are left out of it because the 15-year-old boy's memory of it is different than, let's say, the 23-year-old boy's, who has a different perspective of it all.
How would your brother have made you different?
Oh, I don't know. We would have to get him in here and ask him. I don't know. I think he was very surprised when he saw himself up there, first in Brighton Beach and then again in Broadway Bound. And he's very different in both plays because there are many facets to all of our characters, and they come out according to what situation we're in. Since I placed him in a different situation in Broadway Bound, his character is somewhat different. There are some characteristics that remain the same. My brother Danny is one of the most principled people I've ever met in my life. He remains the same in both places. He's true to his family and tries to stick by them.
As a kid, were you really that preoccupied with sex?
Still am. I think. I mean, I can't think of many boys at the age of 14 or 15 who aren't. I mean, they may not be as overt about it as Eugene is in the film and in the play, but he's got an older brother who is his source of information, and so he has free access to ask Stanley everything, who is experienced but doesn't really know as much as he thinks he knows, which is what gives us some of our comedy in it. But he's learning. He's also living with two girls in the house, his cousins. One of them is a year older than he is, and a very pretty girl, and he falls in love with her, as I did with my own cousin, until you find out that one doesn't fall in love with your own cousin. You can get in trouble. And so it becomes a fantasy, and it becomes a safe way of having your first sexual thoughts, because one doesn't have to consummate them. It's from afar, and then one grows into all the trouble we find in life.
Well, Neil, I think you've got a big hit on your hands.
Oh,
it's really a lovely movie and
Thank you.
fun movie.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it every bit as much as I enjoyed the play, which I
Good.
loved. And it's good to see you again.
You too?
And I hope you have a nice holiday season. And
Oh, is it the holidays already?
coming.
I have to go buy presents.
Thanks a lot, Neil.
You're welcome.
Come on, Steve. Out. Stand by. Speak.
Neil, what kinds of change? Neil, what kinds of changes did you make when you? Neil, what kinds of changes did you have to make for the film? Of course, Jonathan Silverman, who played it on Broadway and in the National Company, is now a little bit older. So how did you adjust for that? How did you happen to think of Blythe Danner for the Jewish mother? Because as good an actress as she is, I don't think most people would think of her in that role. You say this is semi-autobiographical. Now, what does that mean? Where does reality leave off and fiction begin? Were you all that preoccupied with sex? Now let me give just some reactions. I must do that.